want to be clear. I made the joke, he's Sachse and he knows it backstage, and you guys can't make that joke.
It's a great start. Great start.
Explained by me, and we're good.
It goes very downhill from here.
It is.
All downhill from here.
Yes.
All right, hello everybody that's watching. Thank you to everybody that's here. Welcome to the Sling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer here in Milwaukee.
I'm Jim Love. I'm a keynote and motivational speaker also here in Milwaukee. And as we start all these shows here at 707 Hub, we're very thankful for our partnership here. And Alan and I always say that we would be here pretty much every day if this existed over in college. So this is a space for entrepreneurs to learn, to grow, to hear from each other. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. So thank you all for being here. Clap out for yourselves.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Made it.
I have the camera zoomed in, so it looks like there's nobody here.
I know.
But thank you guys.
And there's pizza, which usually brings the people, which is fantastic. And I can smell it, and I haven't had it yet. And he's nodding his head, yes, you see the pizza.
We got a thumbs up. That means the pizza is good.
It's for good. But no, we're happy to be here. This is, I think, number 7 here, 6
sure,
maybe, something like that.
At 7.
So we have a guest, as we do on every show that we've ever done.
Yes.
So, David Sachse, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's
Sachse.
Sachse.
Yep. It's okay. It's okay.
I was really glad that you said it because we asked about it before and I still was like, I'm going to screw it.
Never going to get it.
So, Dave, give us a little bit about your background as an entrepreneur, but also an investor involved in the VC space, venture capital space. But before we go too deep into it, first let's get a little bit about you, where you're from originally, and where you grew up.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I'm an alumni. '04. I graduated here. I grew up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, about an hour north here. And yeah, I was super blessed. Grew up in a loving household with actually a bunch of entrepreneurs. My grandparents had a retail store called Sachse's Luggage and Gifts. My aunt and uncle had a restaurant. My father did M&A at Kohler for 15 years before venturing out and doing his own businesses, buying and selling, and my mother was a CPA that eventually helped him on some of his businesses. And then even going up through high school and college, my brother and I had a window washing business for 6 years. So entrepreneurship and running a business, it was pretty thick in the family.
Did that come up like in conversation as you're growing up of like what it even means to do that, or was that just assumed that like, oh, this is what everyone does, entrepreneurship? Because that sounds like it's pretty driven.
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of like we were there, existing in what was happening, especially when my late mother was helping out with the finances at some of the businesses my father took over, because that was her skill set. So they would talk about finances at dinner, but as a young kid, I was just focused on the food, so it didn't register.
Sure. But the family business ended up being family businesses, basically, if you could say, because you had an idea. I mean, you and your brother had a window washing company. Like, was that something that it just seemed like you asked him supposed to start something, or did it just kind of start as a side hustle?
No, I mean, our parents always wanted us, key lesson, learn to earn. So, I mean, we were working when we were in middle school. We were working at our aunt and uncle's restaurant or at grandma and grandpa's retail store. So that was just in our kind of DNA of, hey, like, we got to get a job, so might as well do something where we think we can earn more and have more control. And we did that with what we called What a Pain window washing.
Oh, it's good.
Pain is in window pain. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah, there we go. That's why
I thought you meant that
it's a dad joke type thing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Window pain. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm kind of offended I didn't get that. But
I'm kind of offended you didn't get it.
Let's move on. It's fine. It's fine. I like it. It's good.
So I will get a little bit further into like the funding part of this in just a second, but I do kind of want to go a little deeper on the window washing company, the nuts and bolts of like finding customers and getting putting feet to the ground on trying to make that stuff happen. Were you the driving force in that, or was it your brother? Like, how did that kind of go about, or is it kind of a shared dynamic?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with my brother, or for my brother first, and I mean, it was just creative tactics. Like, he mailed all the people at the country club that my grandparents were at, and they all have nice houses, and he charged a third of the price of the professional window washers, and we did as good a job, and that's how we got business. So,
that's awesome.
but yeah, we had it for 6 years or so between the two of us, and I had 11 different employees over the years working on it, and it was it was a great learning experience.
That's huge, and I think you brought up a lesson right away is to use your network. You know, you
Yeah.
automatically had a built-in network of this country club, and obviously that's a very specific example, but we forget sometimes to just do that. Think of the people that you know and reach out to them. If you have a service to offer, you want to try it. More than likely, the folks that you know already are going to be like, sure, give it a whirl.
The immediate circle, yeah, or the early backers on things
Exactly,
like that.
yeah. So like use those folks, thinking like LinkedIn, now, and but that was a very granular thing of like, oh, let's try this, and it clearly worked, and you were able to sell something for a lower price, and here you are learning the lessons years later, which is great.
Originally had a business model from the jump,
From the jump.
undercut the price. There you go. Going into the funding side of things, was that something that was also in the family, investing in businesses, or was it more of just owning them, operating them originally?
Yeah, it was more the latter. So my father and late mother came into significant success when they sold a manufacturing company in 2012. That's when they were investing more, but our parents always taught us to, this thing might be dying on me.
It does like a little half in and out.
Okay.
Sorry.
They always taught us to, you get $10 in a birthday card, figure out how to save 11 of it, or have your money work for you. And that's something that we learned at an early age, but it's not like we were investing in businesses or anything like that. Our father did teach us a little bit about the stock market and owning shares of companies, but that didn't click until later in life, which I was very fortunate because I was able to capitalize on some of that when I got some resources from my parents' acquisition.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm curious, like growing up, with given this background of how much, influence all these businesses had on you, did you feel different from your friends that you had some of this acumen that you were already out there, like doing these businesses? Did anyone, was it like, oh, I'm doing this, your friends like, you want to go play video games? And you're like, no, I'm going to go wash windows.
No, because I had buddies that were doing lawn care or paper routes or other stuff. I mean, it's just another job and just the type of job. It's often the type of job where people think you have more flexibility and freedom when it's the opposite. You're actually beholden to everybody that's kind of in the loop of what you're doing. So I didn't think differently at all. No.
Sure. Did you ever get the one up on them entrepreneurially, like Pokemon cards? Were you the kid that was buying and selling and flipping them or anything like that?
Lemonade stands, Pogs were really popular back in my day. So did some selling and trading of those and stuff. But Beanie Babies also flipped those because Grandma and Grandpa used to get them at their stores. So we would also get some of the new releases. And when people were willing to pay, 3, 4, 5 times the normal Beanie Baby price, we would do that.
For the record, Beanie Baby prices have skyrocketed.
Really?
When my cousin was on talking a year or two ago about
We did have, a relative of Jim's.
Yes, and he listens to the show, so John, shout out to you. But then all of a sudden, if you own Beanie Babies,
I thought he was flipping cards.
He was doing a little bit of both.
Cards, sports cards, and now...
Man, you should know this.
I know.
Yeah.
It was like a year ago.
I'm glad you listened. But it's interesting. Those stuff from the past you don't realize is going to be oddly valuable nowadays because people collect them.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Yeah.
I do think one thing that entrepreneurs just naturally have is that they can witness opportunity. And I think that, whether it be, something like flipping Pokemon cards or washing windows or doing something like that, like you kind of just develop that sense of like seeing an opportunity before somebody else does and being able to kind of get involved with that. So when you got to the point where you started funding on things, how quick did that kind of come to you where you could have a little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit and be like, okay, I see an opportunity with this guy's pitch versus that opportunity, and kind of weighing those out?
Yeah, it was a journey for me to get there because, if I didn't have the career background of being a product manager for software at, say, Brady Corporation in 2008 and 2009, I wouldn't have got obsessed with software and mobile, which led me to start tracking technology startups and venture capital in 2008. In essence, my journey has been built upon my previous experiences and yearning for more work, and my curiosity was driving me to want to create more in the corporate world. I started working on some nights and weekends, and then I tried to launch my own high-growth startup. That was a great learning experience. Ultimately, it didn't end up working out, but it left me with the motivation, essentially, that I want to be the VC I wish I had. And that's another experience, a building block that has led me to where I am today, which is now investing in startups and working with other family offices to invest in startups or early stage technology.
For sure. And so before this, I was looking over the portfolio of things that the Sachse Family Fund invests in. You kind of have the wide gamut of things, different companies that you work in. We were talking about a sports betting app that I actually use, that Paul brothers, Logan and Jake, I think Jake's the main one involved.
Just Jake. Logan's not involved. Yeah.
Good. Good move.
Yeah, probably better off.
That the two of them are involved in, but being able to, come to them and say, hey, we want a piece of this. What were some of those first investments like, and what industries were you first looking at? You said tech and some startups, but can you kind of...
Yeah, I mean, I've been more industry agnostic and focused more on the technology. A lot of it has been software. We avoid hardware. Typically, I've tried to avoid capital-intensive, heavily regulated things because I looked at investing in technology, especially when I take other people's capital beyond my wife and mine, as a fiduciary responsibility to getting a return. So. Yeah, I mean, it's really important to me to I'm sorry, what was the question again? Where were you going with that?
Oh, just asking about the different industries that you're looking at.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so it's been a learning journey, actually, where I was going with that. It's been a learning journey of what not to do.
Yeah.
Finding that out through just various deals that I've seen. And I think we've gravitated more towards, like I said, software, early stage, but I've invested in stuff in the food manufacturing industry, to the entertainment industry, to all sorts of different things. And I try to do that to be opportunistic, but I don't pretend to have the answers. We've invested now in 60 deals total, and 20 of those are other VC funds that help go out and find these different technologies, and it's a filter layer, essentially, and it's just an expansion of the network as well, that I try to pretty much optimize by putting myself out there, going to these different events and running into people that I normally wouldn't run into, and all of a sudden that's what can lead to deals and serendipity, creating your own luck.
Yeah. What does it take to learn this? I mean, I have to imagine you have a lot about a lot of things to be able to invest in these certain industries. Are you able to look and just know based on what they're doing, no, I've seen this before, or I've seen that movie before,
No, not at all. Yeah. I mean, some VCs will say they do that because they call it pattern recognition on, hey, this type of founder that came from this industry or this company. I don't look at that. I look at every founder individually because I really try to peel back the layer of why they're doing something, because in entrepreneurship, you need persistence and resiliency, and if you don't have that, doesn't matter how much money you have. Ultimately, things will go, a wire. So I think it's really important more to look at the individual and what their individual motivation is to build what they're building. Because a lot of people are just playing entrepreneurship or playing venture capitalist, and they don't have a strong why.
I think that should be one of our YouTube shorts right there.
We'll clip that
was awesome. I think that's spot on. The persistence and resiliency, and investing in the person, the individual, and there is a level of everyone's cut from the same cloth a little bit. You can tell when someone's very passionate about what they're doing, even for the right reasons. They have a good product, but that's a really good way to look at it, because I have heard of different folks that are oh, we've read this, and that guy's not a big fan of it, but we're going to do it anyway. It's a very different outlook on it, and it sounds like it's gone well, and I think that's a great lesson. And having those two things driving what you're doing is really, really critical, and you learn from it, and I think you've really built that foundation from the ground up right when you started, and now just knowing what not to do. And I'm curious, as you were going along, some of the failures that you've had, and I don't really like the word failures, but just things that you've learned from, what have you picked up on, or what are some of those ones that maybe didn't go well that you thought were going to, or were there any big lessons that you took away from those, just in your own?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple lessons. I mean, through the corporate world, it reminded me to follow my curiosity, because I just needed more, and if I'm not stimulated, I get bored and I check out. So I need to be curious. And with venture capital and technology, it's impossible to get bored because you meet all these really ambitious, smart founders and investors. So that's definitely one. I mean, another one when I was at my startup was, you need to take care of yourself so you can take care of everything else. The last, 12 months of that endeavor, I actually gained 60 pounds. I went from 180 to 240 pounds because I was trying to physically do everything I could to make it a success, but I just could have used the VC in my corner to say, eat a salad, take a breather. But that was another big one. And I think, I think in a way everyone does create their own luck by putting themselves out there and getting repetition and learning. And I think too many people think learning happens in increments, but life's a learning journey. And if you take it that way, in whatever industry you're at, you can accelerate pretty quickly if you try to get better every single day, because too many people compete against other people and they're looking like, oh, look at what that investor's doing, or look what this person's doing, and it's like, realistically, you're competing against yourself, because if you're not better than you were yesterday, like, it doesn't matter what other people are doing. So you got to make sure you're trending in the right direction versus kind of looking over your shoulders.
I love that. I want to circle back. I hate that term. I don't know why I just said that. It's
You've been on LinkedIn too long, man.
I want to come back to, you talked a little bit about self-care, and then having that experience. We talked about burnout. We talked about just, generally how to combat that. Particularly, your day is probably filled up. And what are some ways in your own world that you go about making sure that you're in the right place mentally and physically to do the work that you do and taking care of yourself and to be the best effort that you can?
Honestly, my kids have been a pretty good compass for that, because I burnt myself out many times when I didn't have my kids, including that one time during my startup. But it helps put stuff in perspective, because I got to take care of myself so I can stay around for a long time. So I've been doing a lot more self-care on just sleep. I monitor my sleep. I do all sorts of different things to make sure that I am bringing my best every single day, because I still, even though it's not COVID anymore, there's still days where I'm on 8 to 10 Zooms, and that's just very common for a lot of investors, and that can drive you nuts after a while if you're not bringing balance to it.
For sure. I will also circle back to something that you mentioned before, was the idea of putting yourself out there and making your presence kind of felt too, and getting connected, running into the right people. I think we've talked about networking a lot here and how to get out, to do different stuff and to get introduced to people. Tomorrow we're going to host a pitch competition here.
Oh, nice.
So we will have students that will be, trying to pitch their business out to potential investors, I would think. What is kind of like, if somebody comes to you with a pitch and says, hey, I have this idea, is there anything in particular that you're looking for? Like, there's one thing that they've got to really see. I know we talked about seeing the investor themselves, investing in the investor themselves, but is there something in a business model that, like, if you don't hear it within 15 seconds or 30 seconds of them talking, that you're like, I can't?
No, it's more about, there's a bunch of clues that you can be immediate red flags and stuff if they're talking about exits and stuff like that, because they're not really in it for the long haul. But to me, it's, what are they solving? There's a lot of people that build startups, but like, they're solving okay problems, or problems that aren't really problems, or they're problems for very, very wealthy people or a small percentage of the world. So like, I tell my wife, everything we invest in, we want to be proud to tell our kids about. And there's a lot of stuff that, to me, I'm just not enthusiastic about. Doesn't mean it can't be a good business, or it's a great opportunity, or even a great market. But like, if I don't care about the problem, that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that for years, I was very cynical about just the idea of, like, the whole culture of like a startup, because that seemed to be a big buzzword for a long time, was we have this startup, but I felt like there was a lot of people that were just trying to attract VC money and then looking for their exit kind of thing. When you see that, how do you gently let them down on something like that? If you see somebody that's like, you can tell this person just wants to sell their business and make their money.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily give them feedback unless they're asking for feedback, but oftentimes that energy, I just say I don't have enough investment enthusiasm, because it's pretty clear, and after seeing thousands of pitches and meeting thousands of entrepreneurs and now investing in 40 deals, you can tell some of the energy and confidence that some of the better entrepreneurs have, and it's not an arrogance, but it's more of it doesn't matter if you're on my ship or not paddling, I'm still setting sail, so it doesn't matter. And that's when they have conviction about more so what they tested in the market, usually customer behavior or something, so it's not just their own vision or hypothesis that they're going off of. So their confidence is rooted in data, not ego or bravado or any stuff like that.
For sure.
It's funny, there is a difference between being like arrogant but also just being confident. Like I'm going to do this, I hope that you join. If you don't, well, I'm still going to do it because I believe in it.
Yeah.
And that's another thing entrepreneurs should know, especially if they're working with like a family office, if they're an investor. I mean, families, they risk a lot more than just capital when they're investing together, and they're not going to be investing in jerks or people that they don't think align with their style or their culture. So it's probably a higher bar. How do you find it out their culture? It's not easy to do, and there is no like one way to do it, because the old adage goes, you meet one family office, you met one.
Yeah. What is that dynamic like too when you have the family involved like that? Do you have somebody, you don't have to throw anybody under the bus, but is there one member of the family that might really want to go all in on something that's, a little bit more out there, where you might want to say, okay, we got to peel this back a little bit, or are you the one that is like, we got to go all in on
Well, yeah,
this?
I've been the driver of trying to get us to diversify into this asset class, and with that, we've all been learning slowly. I mean, a lot of my older family members had a private equity lens and thinking we should take 40+% of every company, when I had a more modern venture lens and says, no, we're going to take 1 to 5% type thing, because we're going to be a complementary investor and not try to edge out any of these professional VCs that have been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But the other big thing that we've learned along the way is not necessarily just about our preferences and stuff, but about our differentiations. Like, capital's a commodity. Why would anybody from the coast want to work with a random family office nobody knows about in Wisconsin?
Right.
Capital is not the answer. Other people's capital or co-investors is table stakes for all good investors. So I leaned into the hand I was dealt with the family office cards and slowly created a network of other family offices.
Sure.
And that is our differentiator, because now when people say, hey, we want to work with the Sachse Family Fund or Dave, I can say, yeah, I also have a network of 150 family offices that all invest in venture capital, because I've slowly been building that over the last 6 years now, and I've put myself out there and built a differentiation.
Yeah.
So it's really been a learning journey to where we've had to figure it out, and yeah, we've made mistakes. All family members have, but probably I have the most easily. So it's been good, but we've been learning from them.
Sure. We talked about failures, but I'm gonna be an optimist for a second.
Please.
What was the first thing or one of the first types of companies that you invested in that where you really felt like, okay, I did it. Like, this is starting to turn over for us. This is starting to create, to be a success, really. That you've got it going on.
Yeah, I mean, I never look at that necessarily, because companies go like this. They don't go like up and to the right like everybody thinks. I mean, like even if you look at like Tesla's history, they've almost died many times. Now they're also currently in challenging times again. But they're a very impactful company. So a lot of it's the peaks and valleys is entrepreneurship, is what we've seen, and it's those that like stay even keel, don't get too high during the peaks, don't get too low during the valleys, and those are the entrepreneurs that seem to keep going at it. And we have I would say 8 to 10 of those that I'm really excited and proud to be supporting, that are continuing to build upon their businesses and grow them in a way that, yeah, I do think there's going to be a liquidity event. It's just a matter of size and how long they persist, because that's ultimately what entrepreneurship is.
Yeah.
For sure. So you're looking for people that are going to sustain a business long term and keep, building, not, like you said, like the quick gain kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of other asset classes for family offices to invest in for quick gains.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Now I'm thinking about, like, let's say this audience here, a lot of college students, and perhaps don't have, if you think about someone that doesn't have like the same kind of background of family business involvement, that type of thing, what would be the first step, you would say, if someone wanted to follow what you're doing and sort of get into that DC kind of area and just everything that you're up to, what's something they could do right now to start getting, is it to read a certain book, to take a certain class, to just kind of get a level of interest and involvement in this?
yeah, I mean, I think it's putting yourself out there, but following your curiosity. Wow, what do you like about venture capital? Double click into that more and more. So, and then like start consuming content, start going to events, start following prevalent VCs that you want to be or be better than. But it's really about consuming the type of content and stuff that you want to learn. I mean, Twitter or X, whatever it's called now, has been a tremendous platform for me over the last 14 years. I've been able to put myself out there and meet a lot of different investors and VCs that I wouldn't normally have done. But for the first 7 years using that, I didn't think of that at all with that technology. But because I started and I signed up, I then eventually took the step. So it's about taking the step and like following your curiosity, like what are you interested in? And like just go deep on that, and then find people that can give you insights as well that you can learn from along the way.
Yeah. So you were able to land meetings with venture capitals, just basically started with Twitter and.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten deals from Twitter. I've built co-investment relationships with other family offices from Twitter. Actually, Twitter is one of the main, or X is one of the main platforms that I've been able to build my community of family offices. So, but it also has its challenges too, because being prevalent or more public about investing, you can get a lot of inbound then, and if you invest in a risky asset class as a family office, they're going to assume you invest in every other one. So you can just get a lot of inbound, which can be overwhelming too.
I was going to say, do you ever get like particular industries that you're like, I don't want to touch this, but you get a billion, asks from that?
I mean, not like a ton of asks, but just, I mean, it could be random stuff I've gotten from movies to airlines to all sorts of stuff, and I do only technology investing. So.
Nobody's coming to you with a movie idea and being like, hey.
No, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But that's nothing that I do or respond to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you passed them a Sixth Sense, but it sounded like it was a good movie. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I can imagine the amount of Twitter inbound stuff that comes your way of just like, I don't think so. Yeah, that sounds a lot like that platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you ultimately kind of see things pushing forward for you? What's kind of happening in your world that you think is going to really, you're going to see, I don't want to say the next 5 years, 5 months, anything like that, but is there something down the pike that you're kind of looking at that you see that you could be going that route?
Yeah, I mean, it might sound corny, but I truly think in decades, and I'm on a path right now to build the most collaborative network of family offices that are doing venture capital. And it's not just Midwest family offices. 75% of the group is outside the Midwest. So I'm trying to represent Wisconsin and also have a gravitational pull to pull network resources back to the home base here. And ultimately, no matter where my life takes me, I'll always have residence in Wisconsin. And yeah, I want to continue to make a big impact with the path that I've been set up on. And I think I can do that by collaborating with all these other family offices and making a lot of different investments that can make impact in community.
For sure.
Excellent.
Do you ever have any family offices that come to you from the coast or whatever and say, why Wisconsin? Like, why still here?
Pre-COVID, when I told them I was going to be a VC for the next decade, only thing people said is, when are you gonna move?
I was gonna say, I would assume a lot of people would be like, you gotta move to California, you gotta move to New York.
I would hear a lot of that. So COVID was a blessing in that, where it kind of leveled the playing field, and everyone was on the internet for a year and a half or whatever, and I took advantage of that because people stopped asking where you are, because everyone was on Zoom.
Yeah.
And the corporate people were on Teams.
Yeah, and have you found that, like, I guess, you know, and obviously in person is a good thing, but has that made a lot of folks more available to meet and maybe hear from pitches that they otherwise wouldn't have if they wanted to go in person? Has that changed anything from just the VC front and having it be more tech-centered in terms of how you meet, or not necessarily?
I think it all depends on stage, like check size you're writing and investors' preferences. I know a lot of the traditional investors did not like the Zoom game, understandably, because it was a lot harder to diligence and whatnot. But being early stage, there's always a lot of risk, and you know, being a smaller check in the overall round, it was a lot easier to actually execute some of those versus, yeah, if you're writing $5-10 million checks, that's hard to cut over Zoom.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's gotta be something to be said for, you know, how somebody carries themselves in a meeting with you, or how somebody carries themselves, you know, on those first impressions, that things that just are impossible to replicate when it's you, screen,
It's
you
like,
have no idea what's happening outside of that square, you know?
check the chat, I just signed a check, go ahead, here's a picture of it.
Yeah, I don't think it happens like that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in venture, you make your reputation usually on how you say no, because everybody likes you for a little bit if you give them money, so.
Sure.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Did you, thinking back to your Marquette experience, did you have anyone, or any class here, or any teacher that influences part of your life, or was there any experience here that really was like, I look back on that as sort of a pivotal moment for me as well?
I mean, I wasn't very into school when I was here, candidly. So I took my majors were entrepreneurship and marketing, and you know, at the time we barely talked about the internet because I was here from '04 to '08. Well, my whole job is pretty much the internet now. So it
Change things.
well, that's why it's always like keep learning. But like, I mean, a lot of it's the people that I met. I mean, from the guys on the basketball team that were some of the walk-ons from our Final Four team.
Yeah.
They're physical therapists. Were here 6 years. Played a couple of years with them. Rec ball. That was fun. I met my wife here. My best friend and life partner, who we're doing a lot of cool stuff, investing and supporting entrepreneurs and trying to help community.
Yeah.
I appreciate the sort of the philanthropic aspect of this too, where you really feel like if you're supporting, you know, someone doing good, that makes a ripple effect.
Yeah, I mean, back to we got to care about what problem they're solving, for sure.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I can imagine you can see like, oh, that actually made a significant difference in a lot of people's lives. And I don't think people really, not enough people see the sort of, you know, how that ties together. I would say, I think it's a lot of people just think, oh, money. It's like, well, when you do that, it impacts a lot of people in a really big way, especially when an idea goes that well. So I think it's a big part, and where I think more people can kind of marry some of their passions together a little bit in that way, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Thanks for having
I
me.
appreciate it. I have learned a lot about the VC world that I did not know at the start of this, because it was admittedly something that I was just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was not in that world at all, and yeah. So
Alan has a pitch now. Do you want to start?
that was for later. That's for later. That's after the show, and there's people here.
Fine.
But if you want to actually learn more a little bit about what you're doing online, where's the best place to kind of connect with you and get in touch with, you know, what's going on with the Sachse Family Fund?
Yeah, so you can either go to SachseFamilyFund.com or you can go to FamilyVC.com. That's my community of family offices. Otherwise, you should be able to hit me up on Twitter. I'm just at DSOX or DSOX, which is my name for short because people aren't good at pronouncing it.
I can only imagine why.
It all comes full circle. So, well, thank you. And if you guys are watching online or wherever, thanks to everybody here at the 707 Hub, first off, to them. But then if you guys are following the podcast, if this is your first time, we're the Hustling Sideways podcast. We have an episode every Monday. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all of the things. We're on LinkedIn.
We are on
as
LinkedIn.
well.
Very professional.
He
Yes.
circles back on LinkedIn. We're on all of the different platforms, so please go follow us and tell a friend about it. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and keep on hustling. Don't forget the tagline, man. Jeez. Anyway.
Bye.